You're still tuned in to Salam Media. The name of the show is News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidi. We'll swiftly move along to another interesting conversation when it comes to USA and South Africa diplomatic ties. Donald Trump apparently has mobilized multiple teams to convert commercial office spaces in Pretoria into emergency refugee centers. For thousands of white South Africans. And according to a recent report from the New York Times, the Trump administration is spearheading an initiative dubbed Mission South Africa, aimed at relocating white Afrikaners who claim to be facing challenges in South Africa. And to joining us to unpack this, we'll be speaking to international and diplomacy professor Anthony van Wyk, who's joining us via virtual platform. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you giving us your time. I think just your quick reaction to this announcement by the USA and this US administration. What do you make of it? How do you react to the setting up of literally refugee centers in another sovereign country for white Afrikaners?
Yeah, good morning, Salelo. Thanks for the invitation. My surname is not Van Wyk, it's Van Nieuwkerk. Yeah, I mean, I know white guys all look the same. I do think that there's a bit of misinformation here. I don't take this report very seriously.
Sorry for that.
So I think what's going on is if the United States of America invitation for Afrikaners, for farmers and their families to become citizens of the US on a fast track program, then I don't see refugee centers being set up. I see processing facilities being prepared. It's a bit like students going to university signing up for their studies. There'll be long queues. If the reports are true that there are a couple of thousand of these white Afrikaner farmers and their families who are interested in taking up the offer, then they'll have to process them and they can't queue up at the embassy. And maybe the consulate in Johannesburg will be closed anyway because of the other controversy, which I think is more serious, actually. So for me, there's not much to this story. The real story will start tomorrow or later today, actually, when we will have a good understanding of Donald Trump's very punishing new tariff schedule for all of his trading partners, including South Africa. And the analysis already by the economists suggest that there will be a very punishing schedule for us. We will lose some of our trade benefits, and that is going to hurt our economy because the listeners know that whether you like the Americans or not, it's a big trading partner. Our big trading partners are the Chinese, the Europeans, the Americans, and the Africans. So our economy will suffer if we lose any one of them. And then the real difficult question, which we are grappling with, is what we lose with America in terms of trade and investment and confidence. Can China and BRICS and Africa and the Europeans make up for what we're going to lose? And the unfortunate thing is, we won't be the only country who's going to try and recalibrate our relationships. Every other nation from later today will be in the same position, trying desperately to close the gap that Donald Trump is opening up for them.
And you're talking about closing the gap, and the question would be, then what's the appropriate response from the rest of the world? It's no longer specific targeted countries that will be, bearing the brunt, of this new administration. It's the whole world now. So, firstly, what's the perfect response to this from, the entire world? As you mentioned, US, very, very important global player, whether economically or politically. But how do you, there's no way any country in the world at this point can say we can exist without the United States of America. Then how do you respond to it? And again, from an American point of view, are you not now isolating yourself from the rest of the world? Won't this have repercussions on their economy also and their bilateral relations with other countries? We saw their closest neighbors, Canada, Mexico, and how that situation is boiling up right in their borders. Just
very bad. Yeah,
just
very bad.
From both ends of the spectrum, how should first the entire international community respond to this to try and mitigate it, and how will this affect America in the long run?
You've asked me too many questions which I can't answer. So tell me which one must I respond to?
Let's start with the response, maybe from the international community. How do you go about this new lived reality?
Yeah. So what Donald Trump is doing, or his administration, let me not personalize it, the Trump team, so to speak, because he's got people who's whispering in his ear what to do, including on South Africa. It's those South Africans who ran away. So that's but we can talk about that in a minute, if time allows. So the Trump administration says, very simply, when we make American products and we export them to other countries, for example, to Europe or to the rest of the world, our experience, and even Canada, our experience is when our products arrive at your country, you put tariffs on our products, like a tax, to make it more expensive. And you're doing that to protect your own domestic economy from competition from American products. Now, this has been going on for a long time, and the Trump argument is very persuasive. He says, America tolerated this for a long time because America is the world's superpower. It is the world's policeman. It thinks that it's the leader of the free West. It can determine what happens elsewhere in the world. It's the hegemon. It's the leader, and it is protecting others. And the Trump administration says, those days are over. We're no longer interested in policing the world, peace and security. We will simply pursue our own national interests, including economic and security. So what he will say later today and tomorrow, when it becomes more clear, he will say, if you put tariffs on our products, I will put the same tariffs on your products. You want to sell stuff to us, and there's tariffs already in place. We will do reciprocal tariffs. So in an ideal world, the global economy will benefit from free trade, tariff-free trade. And there are rare exceptions where you will protect, maybe if you have a developing sector of your economy, you want to protect developing that part of your economy from unfair competition. There are rules, there are trade rules. But in general, the world will benefit from less tariffs on each other's products. Trump has turned the situation around and said, this is no longer the case. If you want to import anything, if you want to sell your stuff to me, and I discover that there are tariffs that you put on my products, I'm going to do the same to you. What will the effect be? Everything will become more expensive. Inflation will rise. Money might dry up for investment. America becomes protectionist. And what many countries will do is, like the Canadians, they are now saying, you cannot imagine. I cannot imagine telling you that a few months earlier, let's say until last year, the Americans and the Canadians are close allies. They are made of the same DNA. A Canadian and American is the same thing. They are neighbors. They have the same culture, the same outlook, and so on and so forth. They've now declared publicly that they are no longer allies. They're not saying they're enemies, but they said our relationship is over. And the Canadians, we are looking at how they respond to this Trump move. They say, we will do the same to you. We will rise prices. We will make tariffs on American imports. We won't sell you the things that we think you need. We will look for other markets. We're going to punish you in return. Now, I quickly want to say that this is a case study for South Africa. Can a smaller country punish a superpower? Or should you keep your mouth shut, eat humble pie, and run to other markets and explore what is possible? For example, in our case, we must be much more serious with opening up the Continental Free Trade Agreement, because that's our natural export market, if you want, but also not flood our neighbors who are much smaller than us economically with goods produced in South Africa. We'll have to negotiate a fair trade deal with the rest of Africa. And then, of course, allow me to say two more things. China is our biggest single trading partner. And because China is the other rising superpower, we might run into the same problem. China makes stuff much cheaper and more efficient. We can't really compete. They build stuff and they export stuff. We'll have to negotiate, put our best foot forward and say to the Chinese, can we negotiate a fair trade deal, which is busy happening behind the scenes. And then finally, we're a member of BRICS. We're a country in the global south. This is our natural home. We have to explore all of those trading, investment, and tourism opportunities with the BRICS members. There are new ones, remember. The Gulf states have joined. There's still Brazil, and there are new members. We have to, our diplomats and our trade representatives, they shouldn't sleep. This is no time to be idle. They must be actively engaged with seeking out new markets for trade, investment, and tourism opportunities. It is hard work because everybody else is going to do the same. So the competition is tough. But South Africans are famous for making deals and for bargaining and negotiating. And maybe let me say the last word before I have to go. This famous ability of our diplomats to negotiate and make deals is actually will be put to the test this afternoon in our own parliament. Because let me conclude with this sobering thought. If we ourselves cannot find consensus on the budget today, the GNU might fall apart. And that is very bad news for any external trading partner that we want to go and impress with our ability, to be a trustworthy partner. If we fail today in Parliament, then our trading, investment, and tourism relations with BRICS and China and Europe will be suffering as a consequence.
And I think we'll leave it on that sobering note. Prof, thank you so much for joining us again. Always appreciate your insights and looking to forward to chatting to you again. Really appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
There you go. That's Professor Anthony van Nieuwkerk. U.S. and South Africa bilateral relations again put under the spotlight. And the latest is Donald Trump and the Trump administration. I think very important point there from Professor van Nieuwkerk. They're saying, well, let's not call it make it personal and say, well, it's Donald Trump, but it's his administration. He essentially has people advising him. And the latest is, according to the latest reports, coming from the New York Times, the Trump administration is spearheading an initiative that is dubbed Mission South Africa, which is aimed at relocating white Afrikaners who claim to be facing challenges in South Africa. The process will be rolled out in phases. Apparently, there are teams that are reportedly studying more than 8,200 requests expressing interest in resettling to the U.S. and have already identified 100 Afrikaners who could be approved for refugee status. The administration has reportedly also provided security escorts to officials conducting the interviews for potential refugees. U.S. officials stationed here in South Africa are expected to present long-term strategies aimed at ensuring the effective implementation of the president's vision for the dignified resettlement of eligible African applicants by mid-April. This was outlined in a memo sent from the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria to the State Department in Washington, D.C. earlier this month. The administration, as you've heard, will focus on the white Afrikaner and comes at a time where when the US is effectively barring the entry of other refugees, including approximately 20,000 individuals from countries such as Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo. You have refugees from Syria who have had been cleared for resettlement prior to President Trump's tenure. And according to the New York Times, the program also positions the United States at the center of a heated debate in South Africa, where certain members of the white Afrikaner minority have initiated a campaign claiming to be the true victims in the post-apartheid era. And as you know, the US has so far suspended financial aid to South Africa, including through US aid. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this story pans out. And we want to hear from you, want to engage with you. What do you make of this? Do you think white Afrikaners are making a case? Do you think, there should be almost a sense of patriotism for those that maybe know the truth, from the white minority that's here in South Africa, knows the dynamics of the country, know and understand that there's redress that needs to happen 30 years after apartheid. And well, this is hogwash, essentially. I think at this point we can all agree this is hogwash, this is lies, this fake reporting. Social media is not doing us any justice because if you can head out to Twitter specifically, the fake news and the lies that have been peddled there, if you are not in South Africa, then you think they're fact. You think there's literally a white genocide happening here. Well, a lot of white South Africans, Afrikaner, English that I know, going about their lives. Many of them going to work, dropping kids off to school, coming back, enjoying the weekend at the mall. But hey, America seems to think something different is happening. But we can all agree at this point that this is an agenda. And a lot of people are saying, well, the ICJ case could be the reason why we're seeing the United States of America have being so hostile towards South Africa, our relationship with China and how we're causing up to Russia also, and just the BRICS bloc, and how that is almost seen as an alternative to the dollar and to the United States of America's, hold and grip on the world. Well, South Africa, you want to be a part of that. You want to take Israel, our closest ally and friend, to the ICJ court. Well, we'll show you what we can do. We'll be flexing our muscle, and you'll feel the consequences of it. So yeah, that's literally the basis of it, coming out of the United States of America, the defenders of democracy, the leaders of the free world. That's their response to legitimate calls for people that are surviving a genocide, that are being killed en masse almost every day in Palestine. You stand up, you want to defend them, you want to speak out against that genocide. Well, we're going to punish you for it. And it'll be interesting to see how our leaders are going to be responding to this. I think now more than ever, there will be a test of whether or not South Africa does have good leaders that can respond to testing situations and difficult scenarios, like bilateral relations with one of the most powerful nations in the world. Pretoria, the ball is in your court. What do you do with it? Going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.